All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are back again, Kerbal. Uh, After the very first long video that we did the other day, I wanted to do a little shorter, so we're actually speeding this up. I think at least times two. We made a shorter video in general. This time we're actually going to go to the Mun. Last time did just a basic tutorial on getting out into space, getting off the surface of Kerbin, getting into a low Kerbin orbit. This time we're actually going to go to the Mun, and we're going to go to the Mun through a way of means called basically a free return. Now it's not a true free return. We did use a couple small maneuvers to get ourselves a little closer to the Mun, just try to get into those different biomes. Uh, it's not a big deal. We certainly could have just fired the engine just the um, once we were up into an orbit, and we would have had our free return no problem. The only reason we actually did those extra burns in there was just to do a little bit more science, because we are playing this in a campaign mode. You see, we're just kind of building the craft there. It's nothing very spectacular. It's a basic rocket design. Um, we're taking basically three of these thumpers and using them as our main booster engines. The axiom in Kerbal Space Program is if it doesn't work, add more boosters. So that's just what we're doing here. We're fiddling around in the VAB, trying to get this to all attach right. We have a swivel engine on the bottom of this. I believe those are two TFL 400 tanks that I attached there on the bottom. We have I believe it's the Terrier engine for our smaller stage, and then obviously all our staging set up so that we can uh, detach our main boosters, fire our main center engine really at that point, and then be able to, upon finishing our circularization or so, maybe use a little bit of our fuel from our upper stage to get our finish off that circularization part. I can't quite remember. I am recording this in post. I figured it was a better way to go about doing these videos rather than actually doing a live stream of me just talking over the whole thing. I couldn't speed up the footage like I can in post here and make it at least a little shorter for you. This video should only be like 15 plus, maybe a couple minutes over 15 minutes long. But we're named this one the Artemis 1. You'll shoot for the stars. Even if you miss, you'll die in the cold vacuum of space. We added our mystery goos, our press mat barometers, and our temperature gauges all at the top there. We do have a heat shield on the bottom. We are going to make good use of that coming back in. And I think we're just fiddling around fixing the final bits of staging on the side. Just try to get that all set up ahead of time. There was a cut there in the footage. We were just trying to fiddle with doing some auto strutting so that things wouldn't jostle around on us so much. Ended up being that we didn't have the setting on in the game, and I'd have to stop the video, start it all over again, do the build all over again. It just wasn't worth our time to do that. So we just kind of cut away to it and only upgraded. The only thing we did in that cutaway was we upgraded our VIB so we could have a few more parts so we can be over that 30 part count. But that's really it for that. I think we're getting ready here to launch the Artemis 1. So this is going to be an atypical ascent. We do have just those three booster engines firing right at launch there. There they go. After those are done, completely draining, we're really just going to shoot ourselves basically straight up for this ascent. Normally speaking, we'd like to start a little bit of more of a gravity turn as we get going, but with the way these boosters are set up, they have a little bit of clearance as they're going there when they detach away, but not really a whole lot. We most likely would have ended up hitting our lower part of our rocket and really causing some damage along the way. Um, in and of itself, these three boosters were wicked fast. I mean, we shot up into the atmosphere about 22 before we ended up actually detaching them. We about half throttle there as we start just flipping over almost immediately. Uh, with this design, we had no problem getting up into the atmosphere, getting up into orbit. The biggest obstacle you'd run into with a lower game like this, or a lower stage in career, I should say, is having um, not enough part counts or not enough weight for the size of the craft. All right, and there we go. We're definitely getting up into the atmosphere, or getting up out of the atmosphere, I should say. We have a apoapsis of 103 meters, and we're just gonna flatten ourselves out. Again, normally we'd like to have a little bit longer of an arc, and just kind of have a more efficient approach to our launch, but this will work out fine. We certainly had no problem getting ourselves up into orbit with this craft. So we're just gonna keep going on that horizon there at the 90 degree marker, and just keep burning until we end up getting that apoapsis, that periapsis, I should say, up out of the atmosphere. We did get to the point where we had stage and then fire the engine. We had a weird thing with our staging that the engine didn't want to light, so we just activated it manually. It wasn't a big deal. I was worried about if I hit the staging button again that it would go to the next stage, detach it, and we would have had a failed mission there. So it's just safer to do it manually. So what I'm doing here, for those of you who didn't watch the other video, I'm just trying to keep that apoapsis marker about the same distance away from my ship. If it starts getting a little too further away, I start slowing myself down like you see there. If it gets a little too close, I start speeding up, putting a little more throttle. Just trying to keep it the same distance away. That way I know I'm burning as efficiently as I can just what is eyeballing this. We do have a mission that's going to have us go fly by the Mun, since we are playing in campaign mode. And we should be getting that periapsis any second now. So obviously you can see from the shaded out gray where we don't have the patch conics or anything with our tracking station updated. So we are doing this completely blind shot. There's no maneuver nodes that we're going to be doing on this. This is how you're going to be able to get to the Mun without any of those extra, not necessarily extra, but additional upgrades really to your tracking station or to your astronauts or anything like that, or to your mission control, I should say. And there we go. We're getting ourselves nice and circularized around 115,000 meters, and we're going to shoot ourselves for the Mun. So I just kind of put the Mun at the 12 o'clock position, looking straight down from the North Pole. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to do a time warp. So I'm actually going to get myself around the planet, and what I'm aiming to look for is as soon as the Mun actually comes over that horizon from Kerbal, that's when I'm going to fire my engines in a prograde direction. You'll see me, I have the prograde marker with Jebediah Kerman flying highlighted. So once I'm in once I see the Mun come over that horizon, I'm going to fire the engines full throttle, and we're just going to let the engines go until we actually get to a certain altitude. I believe the altitude that you're aiming for normally is around, I think it was 12 million meters. I think you're actually aiming for around, for a true free return, somewhere in the range between 12 million meters, I should say, and that 14 14,500,000 meters. So what we're actually doing is we're making that burn right now. You're going to see me actually overshoot it just a little bit. I think I went up to like 18.5, so I got to bring that back down. So I just flip myself around, go in a retrograde direction, and just bring that back down until it's at 14 14,500,000 or so. And that's fine. That's all we really need to do. If you left it right there, you would be able to get back to Kerbin with no other fuel. You should actually have your periapsis somewhere below the common line of 70,000 kilometers, or 70,000 meters, I should say. Or you would actually have your wouldn't have a periapsis marker. You actually be coming down into the planet itself, and that's the fast and easy way to get to the Mun. From here, we are going to do a few things. Once we actually get ourselves, we're going to do a couple science experiments. We haven't done any science for our campaign mission here in a high Kerbin orbit. So that's why we have the 3 mystery crew, the 3 press map barometers, the 3 2 hot temperature gauges. We did all those science there in our high Kerbin orbit, and we're just time warping ourselves out. You can see at this point we don't have any signal to the Kerbin Space Center. They have no idea what's going on with poor Jebediah. And we're just watching that Mun come in. And pretty soon we're going to see that that trajectory shift right there. And you see we're at a nice periapsis. I think it was like 500,000 or something like that away. That's perfectly fine. Again, we're just doing some, now that we're in a different biome, we're going to do the same experiments, get ourselves some more science, do that in a high Mun orbit. Like I said, because since we have so much fuel left, and we really don't need any more fuel just to get back to Kerbin at this point, because of the way we're traveling around the Mun, we did a radial inburn, and that actually brought our periapsis closer to the Mun itself, and just kind of dropped it in. I think we left it somewhere around 10 or 20,000 meters. Can't quite remember where exactly. Maybe it was down to 34. I can't recall. There it was. Yeah, we left it around 12. So that's going to bring us in nice and tight, close to the Mun. We're going to be coming back in at a little bit different angle than what we need to for a true free return at this point. We're going to have to spend a little fuel to get ourselves back out, but we got ourselves below the mark to do some more science in orbit near the Mun, which, because we're playing this in a campaign mode, we want to make sure that we actually get the most out of our science. So that's what we're kind of doing right here. We're just kind of fiddling around trying to get the right camera view so I can see what's going on with all these experiments. And we're just grabbing the rest of our science at this point. And that's really all we're doing with this mission. It's a nice quick free return, quote unquote free return, I should say. You certainly could do it. We completed the mission that we wanted to do. Alternatively, you could easily circularize yourself on the back half of the Mun there and just keep on going from there. So as you see, our periapsis is actually further out than what it would normally be for a free return because we shifted ourselves closer to the Mun, trying to get those biomes. So again, we're burning radially in, just kind of lower that periapsis a little easily as we're not at the apoapsis marker, and it's kind of the best way to kind of lower that down. We ended up lowering it down to about 35,000. I figured that was a good distance to be down to. Probably needed to raise it just a hair more, maybe about 40,000 meters. 35, we were starting to have a couple temperature gauges heat up on reentry, which you'll notice as we get in closer. But we were going a little fast. We ended up doing a retrograde direction going in and used whatever we had left of fuel to just kind of bring that in a little tighter, slow ourselves down a little bit, and just jettisoning off that last bit of engine, leaving ourselves with the heat shield. And we actually did a really good job. We weren't planning on coming down anywhere near the KSC, really. We hadn't lined it up. We didn't do any extra maneuvers. But we actually came in really, really close. We overshot it by, I don't think there's any indication on there as how much we actually overshot by. But we did land in the water just on the other side of the KSC. You can see I'm starting to do some of those little rotations of the craft just to make sure that our mystery goo experiments don't heat ourselves up. And you see some of the debris there that we jettisoned off is also coming down in the atmosphere with us. And yeah, that's the KSC right there in the corner of the map. Jebediah is nice, nice and happy in the corner there. He's not happy if he's not going flying by the seat of his pants, coming in at a very hot reentry. So the heat shields in KSP are very, very efficient. We're actually not even using nearly as much ablator that we actually have. We had tons left over for this craft, and there we are going right over the KSC, right below us there. The craft itself was obviously aerodynamically stable, so we really didn't need to have SES holding ourselves at retrograde, but just for the sanity sake of making sure things don't wobble out of control when we're coming in so hot, we wanted to make sure that we kept things in a reasonable degree of control. So that was pretty much it for the mission. It was a very cut and dry, very simple mission. We're just kind of coasting ourselves down, kind of taking in the sights of the islands and the KSC right there. I said I'm not sure how far away we actually ended up landing here in the water, but it seemed like it was a pretty reasonable distance. We just opened up our parachute there, and we should have it opening up there. Yeah, I always get worried as it gets closer and closer when we only have it at 1,000. But yeah, that was a great little mission. That's how you do a quick free return from the Mun. If you're trying to do uh, your first trip to the Mun, that's probably one of the ways you want to go about it. You certainly could land there as well, but you have to over-engineer your craft a little more than this one to actually land on the surface of the Mun. But all in all, we're just checking to see if we needed any more signs from this biome before we recovered our mission. And that's it. We did a great job. We got 250 signs. Jeb got a little bit more experience. We ended up getting a couple world first milestones for ourselves, going by the Mun and leaving and returning home. And we completed all our contracts. So got a little bit more money and everything's all good. So thank you guys. This was Kerbal. Fly safe.